Karen's face flushed with rage as the Wi-Fi signal dropped again. She slammed her fist on the kitchen counter, glaring at the router blinking accusingly on the shelf. "This is unacceptable," she screeched, her voice shrill enough to shatter glass. Her husband, Michael, rushed in, brow furrowed with concern. "What's wrong, honey? The Wi-Fi keeps cutting out. I can't even refresh my Facebook feed without it freezing." Karen's hands shook as she gestured emphatically. "This is an outrage. I'm calling the internet company immediately." Michael placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Calm down, dear. Let me take a look." He approached the router, carefully examining the flashing lights. After a few moments, his expression darkened. "Karen, I think there's a problem with the network." "A problem?" Karen's eyes narrowed. "What kind of problem?" "It seems like someone has been accessing our network without authorization." Michael's voice was low, his tone grave. "There are multiple unknown devices connected, and the bandwidth is being drained." Karen's jaw dropped, her face contorting with a mix of outrage and disbelief. "What? That's impossible. No one else has the password." She jabbed an accusatory finger at her husband. "You must have shared it with one of your friends again, haven't you?" Michael shook his head firmly. "I haven't shared the password with anyone. This is a serious breach of our network security." "Well, fix it, then," Karen demanded, her hands balling into fists. "I need my Wi-Fi back, and I need it now." Reluctantly, Michael began troubleshooting the network, his brow furrowed in concentration. As he delved deeper into the system, his expression grew increasingly troubled. "What is it?" Karen asked, her voice dripping with impatience. I'm detecting some suspicious activity." Michael's eyes widened with concern. There seemed to be encrypted files being transferred, and the network traffic is being routed through a VPN. Karen's face paled, her features twisting with a mixture of panic and defiance. That's ridiculous. I'm sure it's just a glitch." "Fix it, Michael." "I don't think this is a simple glitch, Karen." Michael's voice was firm, his gaze unwavering. "I'm afraid someone might be using our network for illegal activities." The color drained from Karen's face, and she took a step back, her hands trembling. No, that can't be true. I don't know anything about that." Michael's eyes narrowed, his expression now tinged with suspicion. "Karen, is there something you need to tell me?" Karen's lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Finally, she let out a shaky sigh and met her husband's gaze. I may have been using the network for a side business. But it's nothing illegal, I swear." Michael's jaw tightened, and he ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration. "A side business? Using our home network? Karen, do you have any idea how risky that is?" I know. Karen's voice rose in pitch, her desperation palpable. "But it's the only way I could make some extra money without you finding out." "I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't mean for it to get this out of hand." The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with unspoken accusations and the weight of betrayal. Michael stared at his wife, his expression a mix of disappointment and concern. "Karen, we need to talk. And this time, I need the full truth." Michael guided Karen to the living room, his hand on her elbow, guiding her like a child. The air was heavy with unease as they sat down on the couch, facing each other. "All right, Karen," Michael began, his voice measured and calm. "I need you to tell me everything. What exactly have you been doing on our home network?" Karen fidgeted nervously, her gaze fixed on her hands, which were clasped tightly in her lap. I've been running an online business, selling certain items." Michael's brow furrowed. "What kind of items, Karen?" She hesitated, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Well, you see, there's this group on the dark web that pays good money for for certain personal items. Her voice trailed off, and she refused to meet his eyes. Michael's heart sank as the pieces began to fall into place. Karen, are you telling me that you've been selling intimate photos and videos of yourself on the dark web? Karen's shoulders slumped, and she nodded slowly, her cheeks flushed with shame. I know it's wrong, Michael, but the money was just so good, and no one was supposed to find out. Michael ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of shock, disbelief, and disappointment. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? The dark web is a breeding ground for criminals and predators. You could be putting yourself in serious jeopardy. Karen's eyes welled with tears, and she finally looked up at her husband. I'm sorry, Michael. I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted to have a little extra money of my own, without you knowing. Michael shook his head, his face etched with concern. Karen, this is not just a little extra money. This is a serious breach of trust and a potential legal nightmare. We need to shut this down immediately. No, please, Michael. Karen pleaded, her voice trembling. You can't tell anyone about this. I'll lose everything if anyone finds out. Michael held up a hand, silencing her. I'm sorry, Karen, but I can't ignore this. We need to contact the authorities and report the illegal activity on our network. Karen's eyes widened in panic, and she reached out to grab her husband's arm. No, Michael, please. I'll do anything. Just don't tell anyone. The tension in the room was palpable as the couple stared at each other, the weight of the situation pressing down on them. Michael knew he had to make a choice, one that would have lasting consequences for both of them. Michael's expression hardened as he gently removed Karen's hand from his arm. I'm sorry, but I can't ignore this. We need to report the illegal activity on our network to the authorities. Your safety and our family's well-being are far more important than any potential consequences you might face. Karen's face crumpled, and she let out a desperate sob. No, Michael, please. You don't understand. If anyone finds out about this, I'll lose everything. My reputation, my standing in the community, even my job. I can't let that happen. Michael reached out and took her hands in his gaze unwavering. I know this is terrifying, but we have to do the right thing. What you've been doing is extremely dangerous, both legally and personally. We need to put a stop to it before it spirals out of control. Karen shook her head vehemently, her eyes wild with panic. I can't let that happen, Michael. You have to promise me you won't tell anyone. I'll do anything. Just please don't report this. Michael's heart ached as he watched his wife's anguish, but he knew he couldn't back down. I'm sorry, Karen, but I can't make that promise. The right thing to do is to come clean and deal with the consequences. I'm here for you, but I won't enable this any longer. Karen's body shook with sobs, and she buried her face in her hands. You don't understand. If anyone finds out, I'll be ruined. My life will be over. Please, Michael, you have to help me. Michael reached out and gently pulled Karen into his arms, holding her tightly as she cried. I know this is terrifying, but we have to do the right thing. I promised I'll be by your side every step of the way, but we can't keep this a secret any longer. Karen clung to him, her tears soaking his shirt. I can't, Michael. I just can't. Please, you have to help me. I'm begging you. Michael sighed heavily, his heart torn between his desire to protect his wife and his need to uphold the law. Karen, I want to help you, but I can't be a part of this. We have to report the illegal activity on our network. It's the only way to keep you safe. The room fell silent, save for the muffled sounds of Karen's anguished cries. Michael held her, his own eyes stinging with unshed tears, as he grappled with the weight of the decision he had to make. The silence in the room was deafening, save for the muffled sounds of Karen's anguished sobs. Michael held her tightly, his own heart heavy with the gravity of the situation. After what felt like an eternity, Karen's cries finally began to subside. She pulled away from her husband's embrace, her eyes red and puffy, her face streaked with tears. "Please, Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling. "There has to be another way. I can't. I can't let this all come crashing down." Michael shook his head, his expression filled with a mixture of empathy and resolve. "I wish there was, Karen, but you know as well as I do that what you've been doing is illegal. We have to report it." Karen's eyes widened in panic, and she gripped his arm with surprising strength. "No, you can't. If anyone finds out, I'll lose everything. My job, my friends, my standing in the community. I'll be ruined." Michael sighed heavily, his gaze filled with a deep concern. "I know this is terrifying, but continuing to keep this a secret is only going to make things worse. The longer we wait, the more damage it could do." Karen's face crumpled, and she buried her head in her hands. "I can't go through that, Michael. I just can't. Please, you have to help me find a way out of this." Michael reached out and gently pried her hands away from her face, meeting her gaze with a steely determination. "I'm sorry, Karen, but I can't help you cover this up. That would make me an accomplice, and I won't do that. We have to come clean and face the consequences." Karen's eyes narrowed, and a sudden flash of defiance crossed her features. "Then I'll do it myself. I'll find a way to cover my tracks and make this all go away. You don't have to be a part of it." Michael's expression hardened, and he shook his head firmly. "I can't let you do that, Karen. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about our family, our reputation, and our safety. We're in this together, whether you like it or not." Karen's face crumpled once more, and she let out a ragged sigh. "What am I going to do, Michael? I can't let this ruin my life." Michael reached out and squeezed her hand, his gaze filled with a mixture of sympathy and resolve. "I know it's not going to be easy, but we'll get through this together. I'll be by your side every step of the way, no matter what happens." Karen nodded slowly, her expression one of resigned acceptance. "Okay, Michael. I trust you, but I'm scared. I'm so scared." Michael pulled her into a tight embrace, and for a moment, the weight of their situation seemed to lift. "I know, Karen. I know. But we'll face it together, no matter what." The next morning, Michael and Karen sat across from a pair of stern-faced police officers, the tension in the room palpable. "So, let me get this straight," the older officer said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "You're telling us that your home network has been used for illegal activity, specifically the distribution of intimate content." Karen's cheeks flushed with shame, and she nodded weakly. Yes, officer. I was the one responsible. I was selling personal photos and videos on the dark web without my husband's knowledge." The officer let out a heavy sigh and jotted down some notes. "And you're aware that this is a serious criminal offense, correct?" "Yes, officer," Michael interjected, his voice steady despite the turmoil he felt. "We understand the gravity of the situation, and that's why we've come forward to report it." The younger officer, a woman with a no-nonsense expression, leaned forward. "Can you provide us with any details about the specific content being distributed, the individuals involved, or the payment methods used?" Karen's eyes widened, and she shook her head frantically. "I don't have any of that information. I was just the one selling the content. I don't know anything about the buyers or the dark web operations." The older officer's gaze narrowed, and he fixed Karen with a stern look. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm going to need you to be completely honest with us. Withholding information could be considered obstruction of justice." Karen's hands trembled, and she glanced nervously at Michael. I don't know anything else, officer. I swear. I just wanted to make some extra money, and I didn't think about the consequences." The officers exchanged a silent look, their expressions unreadable. Finally, the younger officer spoke up. "Well, we'll need to investigate this further. We'll likely have some follow-up questions for both of you, so we'd appreciate your full cooperation." Michael nodded firmly. Of course, officer. We'll do whatever we can to assist with the investigation and make amends for this situation. The older officer stood up, gesturing for his partner to do the same. Very well. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, I'd strongly advise you both to refrain from any further illegal activities. As the officers turned to leave, Karen reached out, her voice trembling. Officer, please, is there anything you can do to help me avoid criminal charges? The officer's expression hardened. I'm afraid that's not up to me, ma'am. The decision will be in the hands of the district attorney's office. I suggest you consult with a lawyer. With that, the officers departed, leaving Michael and Karen alone with the weight of their choices. The silence in the room was deafening, a palpable tension hanging in the air. The silence in the room was suffocating, broken only by the occasional sniffle from Karen as she sat hunched in her chair, her eyes downcast. Michael watched her, his own heart heavy with a mix of emotions, disappointment, concern, and a glimmer of hope that they could somehow find a way through this. Finally, he reached out and gently placed his hand on Karen's arm. Karen, I know this is terrifying, but we have to start figuring out how to move forward. Karen raised her head, her eyes red-rimmed and filled with a mixture of fear and defiance. Move forward? How can we possibly move forward from this, Michael? My life is ruined. Michael took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. I know it feels that way, but we have to try. The officers said the district attorney will make the final decision on any charges. We need to start preparing for that. Karen shook her head vehemently, her hands clenching into fists. Preparing? How can I possibly prepare for this? I could go to jail, Michael. My reputation, my job, everything I've worked for, it's all going to be destroyed. Michael reached out and grasped her hands, his gaze steady and reassuring. I know, Karen, and I'm so sorry you're going through this. But we have to face it head on. The best thing we can do is cooperate fully with the investigation and work with a lawyer to build the strongest possible defense. Karen's eyes widened, and she pulled her hands away, her expression bordering on panic. A lawyer? Are you serious? That's going to cost a fortune, and it's not going to change the fact that I did something illegal. I know, Karen, but we have to try, Michael said, his voice firm but laced with compassion. We can't just sit back and let the chips fall where they may. We have to fight this, for your sake and for our family's sake. Karen let out a shaky breath, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I don't know if I have the strength to fight this, Michael. I'm so scared. Michael reached out and pulled her into a comforting embrace, his own eyes stinging with unshed tears. I know, sweetheart, I know. But I promise, I'll be right here with you, every step of the way. We'll get through this together, no matter what. Karen clung to him, her body trembling with the weight of her fears. I hope you're right, Michael. I hope you're right. The couple sat there, holding each other in the silence of the room, as the uncertain future loomed before them, a cloud of unease and trepidation casting a shadow over their lives. In the days that followed, Michael and Karen found themselves navigating a maze of legal complexities, each step fraught with uncertainty and the weight of their choices. They had retained the services of a seasoned criminal defense attorney, a man with a reputation for tenacity and a keen understanding of the justice system. From the moment they sat down with him, it was clear that this would be no easy task. Based on the information you've provided, the district attorney is likely to press charges for the distribution of intimate content and unauthorized access of a private network, the lawyer stated, his expression grave. The potential penalties could include fines and even jail time. Karen's face paled, and she gripped Michael's hand with a desperation that betrayed her inner turmoil. Jail time. But I didn't think it would be that serious. I was just trying to make some extra money, that's all. The lawyer nodded solemnly. I understand, Mrs. Johnson, but the law doesn't make exceptions for intent. The fact is, you engaged in illegal activities, and the consequences can be severe. Michael squeezed Karen's hand, his gaze filled with a mix of concern and resolve. What can we do to minimize the damage? Is there any way we can avoid criminal charges? The lawyer leaned back in his chair, his brow furrowed in concentration. It's going to be an uphill battle, but we'll do everything in our power to build a strong defense. Cooperation with the investigation, a sincere apology, and a commitment to make amends may help sway the district attorney's office. Karen's eyes widened with a glimmer of hope. So there's a chance I won't go to jail. The lawyer held up a hand, his expression cautious. I can't make any guarantees, Mrs. Johnson. The decision ultimately rests with the district attorney and the judge. However, we'll do our best to present a compelling case and argue for a more lenient outcome. Michael nodded, his grip on Karen's hand tightening. We understand. We're prepared to do whatever it takes to make this right. The lawyer leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. Good. Because the road ahead will be challenging, and you'll need to be completely transparent and cooperative if you want to have any chance of a favorable resolution. Karen swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. I'll do whatever it takes, I promise. The lawyer nodded, his expression solemn. Very well. Let's get to work then. The sooner we can get started, the better our chances of minimizing the damage. As the trio began to map out their legal strategy, the weight of the situation seemed to press down on them, a constant reminder of the consequences of their choices. In the weeks that followed, Michael and Karen found themselves navigating a legal minefield, their lives consumed by a constant stream of meetings with their attorney, interviews with investigators, and the looming uncertainty of their fate. The district attorney's office had been unforgiving in its pursuit of justice, leaving no stone unturned in their investigation. Karen's online activities had been meticulously scrutinized, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. Despite the best efforts of their legal team, the odds of avoiding criminal charges seemed to dwindle with each passing day. The prospect of jail time hung over Karen like a dark cloud, her once vibrant spirit crushed by the weight of her mistake. Michael, for his part, had become a pillar of unwavering support, standing by his wife's side through the agonizing process. He had made the difficult decision to take a leave of absence from his job, devoting himself fully to Karen's defense and ensuring that she didn't have to face this ordeal alone. As the final hearing approached, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Karen sat, her hands trembling, as the district attorney presented their case, outlining the severity of her actions and the need for significant consequences. The judge, a stern-faced individual with a reputation for harsh sentences, listened intently, his expression unreadable. When it came time for the defense to make their case, their attorney spoke with a passion and determination that belied the odds they were up against. Ultimately, the judge's decision was a bittersweet one. While Karen was spared from serving jail time, she was ordered to pay a substantial fine and complete a lengthy period of probation, with strict conditions that would significantly impact her personal and professional life. As the gavel fell, signaling the end of the proceedings, Karen let out a shaky breath, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and resignation. Michael pulled her into a tight embrace, his own expression a testament to the roller coaster of emotions they had endured. It's over, Karen, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. You're going to be okay. We're going to get through this together. Karen nodded, her grip on her husband tightening. I know, Michael. I know. But it's going to be a long road ahead, isn't it? Michael pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, his eyes filled with a steadfast determination. Yes, it is, but we're in this for the long haul. Whatever happens, we'll face it as a team, just like we always have. As the couple made their way out of the courthouse, their footsteps heavy with the weight of their experiences, they knew that the journey ahead would be a challenging one. But with each other's unwavering support, they were determined to emerge from this ordeal stronger and more resilient than ever before.